check out Seagull for the latest weather conditions, so it's safe when me and my friends are out paddleboarding on the Great Lakes. You should check it out, seagull.glos.org.
Hi, my name is Shelby, and at the Great Lakes Observing System, my job is to help make sure that people who have data sets that benefit the public make it onto our platform called Seagull. So whether it's a small inland lake or a Great Lake, I'm your person.
Hi, Shelby.
I have to know, what Great Lake is that?
Well, as you know, Shelby, I don't actually live in the Great Lakes. I live in Victoria, British Columbia, and that was called Johnson Lake. And despite the fact that I didn't record that video on the Great Lakes, I do love paddleboarding, sometimes on the Great Lakes. But that day I was on Johnson Lake, which they call the Caribbean of BC because it was so blue. But I'd like to know, what lake were you in front of in the beach that you were on? It looked pretty sweet.
Yeah, definitely not one of the Great Lakes. We were at Kensington Metro Park, just down the road from our house. So it's Kent Lake, and we like to go check it out. I'm hoping they might get a buoy in the future that we can actually put on Seagull. That would be pretty awesome. So
yeah, that's great.
We need to keep an eye out for that.
Well, and you know, we were talking about this a month or so ago about how just regular people can get buoys of their own out on the Great Lakes. And there is a process, if I understand that, or process for those south of the border. Shelby, do you just want to quickly recap, like super high level, on what that process is?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you have a platform out there, you can reach out to me at shelby@glos.org. You fill out one Excel sheet with some pretty basic information about what you're monitoring, where it's at, what you want to call it on Seagull, and we'll get it hooked up with you. We'll help you out, and it's we have a team on board waiting to make it happen, and it's all free.
That's true. That's the important part to mention, is that Seagull is free. GLOS, or the Great Lakes Observing System, as you know, but for everyone else out there, it's a nonprofit. It's mostly publicly funded by the Integrated Ocean Observing System, or IUS, which is a part of NOAA on the US government. And we're funded every year to help retrieve data from the Great Lakes and then make it publicly available. That's basically our only job. And to help grow information and awareness about the Great Lakes and all of the amazingness about the Great Lakes, but also how fragile the ecosystem is, the lake floor, the bathymetry that's captured by it, the information in the water column, wind speed, water temperature, all of the physical and chemical parameters that go into that, and make the Great Lakes what they are, but also provide information for people who are out there either recreating or doing science or just want to know more about them. Hey, this is our first Seagull live stream, or this first Seagull live stream user group meeting. It's a poor acronym. I guess that'd be SLUG. So I think we'll just go with Seagull user group. That's SUG, maybe a little bit better. But just want to give you some logistics here. So this is live streaming to all of your favorite platforms: Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, wherever it may be. It will be recorded and on our YouTube channel, and please hit the subscribe button on that so we can grow our subscriptions as well. We are going to keep this to be around 25 to 35 minutes. Excuse me. We've got some real users on the phone with us as well today. We're going to show you the latest that's we've been working on in Seagull, and the latest of what's next up with Seagull. We're also going to talk about like some of the pain points that we've had and some of the high points that we've had as well. If you've got any questions or you post comments on social media, they should appear in the comment section on somewhere. I don't know where they appear, but they're supposed to appear somewhere. If you've got questions, they will pop in and we'll see them. And we're going to try to answer those in real time or close to real time. And myself, Tim Kearns, and Shelby Brunner, we're your hosts of the first Seagull live stream. So Shelby, anything that you wanted to add?
No, that sounds like a great summary, Tim. I'm bummed that we can't use SLUG, but I'm sure all the SLUG members are happy to be part of the SUG instead. So I am curious how it's been going with Seagull since launch in April.
Hey, I'm glad you asked. So for everyone, you know, this is the first year that we've had Seagull. We launched on April the 28th to some great fanfare in Chicago at Glossapalooza. We hit the big red button and it went live, and it was amazing. So I did want to share with you. I think I can Maybe David can add this to the live stream. I can. I don't know if you're seeing this or not. There we go. Thanks, David. All right. So since we launched in April, we've had over 70,000 unique users hit Seagull, which is pretty phenomenal. That's 5.5 million click events. And I can tell you from experience, that's way more than my own personal Twitter feed. Definitely. That's because I've only got 11 users or 11 followers. However, and then the other measure that we've really been looking for with Seagull is how many people are actually creating accounts. And that's super important for us because that helps us engage. Then we're able to provide information. Those users are able to set their unit preferences and notification preferences, favorites, language settings, all kinds of stuff that you might want to do like you would in any other consumer application that you're familiar with already. So you can see from this graph there, and that where the beginning of that hockey stick starts, which is what all software developers want to see in their products, is when we launched in April, it's been a steady increase of user accounts created since then. These are free accounts. You just need to create a username, email address, that sort of usual stuff, your phone number if you wish to receive SMS messages from Seagull. And yeah, we're pushing 1,000 now, and we hope to keep growing as time goes on. So if you haven't already created a Seagull account, just head over to seagull.glos.org and create one. And we'd love to see you in the app. Shelby, you said we had our first question. What is it?
Yeah, it came in from Dennis Haynes, and he asked, how do you plan to manage the quality of hydrospatial data that's coming in from the crowd and hosted in Seagull? And Tim, this is a great question for you.
Well, it's a great question for both of us, but there's two types of data that we measure quality from. So the first is our observation data, and we use a system called Quartod. That's a series of metrics that we assign, analysis that we assign to the data to identify any gaps in the data, areas that exceed certain thresholds, and then we can flag that data and highlight it as there's something suspect going on here, or perhaps there's some problem with it. In some cases, we'll go back to the data provider and alert them, or they'll automatically be alerted to a potential issue with a sensor on board, or an issue with the data itself. So that's called Quartod. The other type of data that we're slowly moving towards, and this is what Denis, who's a friend of mine, he is referring to, this is crowdsourced data or volunteer data. And so there's a few different ways that we can measure that. Measure the quality of that. One is we can say, you know what, we take it as is. And we just qualify it by saying this is crowdsourced data and we're not sure of what the quality is. That's certainly one possibility. The other possibility is that the systems that are collecting these data sets sometimes do provide some sort of certainty or level of quality in the data itself. And then we can continue and flow that attribution through on the data and make others aware of it. For citizen science data, that's not yet in Seagull. So I'd say the real answer to your question, Denis, is that it's kind of an open-ended discussion, and we'd love to have your participation in potentially how we could manage communicating the quality of that data to others.
And one thing to highlight as well is that we have this really great feedback tool available on the Seagull site that if you go to Seagull, you can provide feedback. If you see something that looks suspect, or if you have suggestions for how to improve it, we definitely read all those, all that information. We take it very seriously to help improve this new portal that we've launched.
Yeah, thanks. And speaking about feedback, I wanted to call out on this slide that you should see here. Since we launched, there's been a phenomenal amount of feedback. I'm going to share some of it with you in just a minute. But 4 big things that we've been working on since we launched in April. And a lot of this was because of feedback from users, which is why it's so important that we get that feedback. The first one is banners. Shelby's going to show you this later on, but this is what's going on with this, my favorite buoy at this location. There's something not right, or it's not working, and I don't want to send an email to Tim at GLOS and find out why. You can just go to your data console. Shelby's going to show you exactly what that banner looks like. Another is people wanted to see new data in Seagull, so we've just finished adding a new pipeline. Shelby's going to show you that. That's from NDBC, the What's it stand for, Shelby? I always
National Data Buoy Center, Tim.
National Data. I should know this, but anyway, I'm terrible at those acronyms. All right, Shelby's going to show you that new data pipeline. We're pretty excited about that. We also had some really good feedback on our graphing and how our visual display of the data is. Some people didn't love that we put a trend line on the data. They wanted to see those discrete measurements, so we changed that. And then the other thing that you can't see, but we did it anyway, is something called a staging environment. So this means that we've got actually a mock Seagull all stood up, completely running in parallel. It's like the Matrix. You know, we take the blue pill or the red pill, but if we take the red pill, that means that we've got this whole staging environment. This is where we can release new features and new pipelines and new data, and we can test it really, really well before we push it over to the other environment, which is what we call production. It actually took a while to do that, to a staging environment. Basically, we've got a mirror environment of Seagull stood up. So those are the 4 big things that we've been working on, and we'll share some of that feedback and some of those other things later. Shelby, what else?
I think those are the big things that we recently talked about and released. We have some new stuff coming always, but we'll get into that later on. So
great. All right, let's see what else I've got here. I did want to mention, not so positive news. We were running 100% uptime, but I love being transparent with everyone. So we did have a knockout recently. We were down for a few hours. Fortunately, it was in nighttime. And hopefully not too many people were impacted by it. Basically what happened was we turned that new pipeline on a couple weeks ago, and we got a fire hose of data. It completely overwhelmed our servers, and we had to hit the reset button. Anyway, that cleaned it all up, and we fixed it, and we're back up and running. So we've had very good uptime. This is sort of reinforces to us why we built Seagull in the first place. Our older system, we were constantly running into problems. We had all kinds of downtime and challenges. So we're really glad that we did this, not just for us, but for you. Let's see. I think this is that. I don't know if maybe I can't show you the feedback here. It doesn't seem to have the animation. But anyway, we got loads of great feedback. Some of our favorites were that we love the design of the application. We got the ease of use. Some people like the search. Other people love that they can create an account and create notifications. We've probably gotten, I don't know, maybe almost 100 pieces of super positive feedback. So thank you. Keep it coming. And let's jump into actually seeing Seagull and some of the great stuff that we've been releasing.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And thanks for the overview, Tim. I think that's really useful for us to hear about. And just as a reminder, so we do send monthly-ish emails about the updates that are happening with Seagull and the changes that are coming in. So if you didn't get that email and you're interested in it, you can definitely get added to that list. So you can email support@glos.org or Shelby@glos.org or Tim, and we will help get you on that list so you can find out what's most up to date with Seagull. We did get one more question in, so let's go ahead and take that, and then we can move on if that's okay.
Yeah, Shelby, I actually think that you're going to be showing this, aren't you?
Yeah, I will be. So how accurate is the current information, and can it be displayed in knots rather than beats per second? So great question, Daniel. So the information is as good as the sensors are. We like to think that it's mostly all of science quality. They're high level scientific instruments, and as long as they're well maintained. We do get some troubleshooting. So we are working through one issue with one, it's called an ADCP, an acoustic current Doppler profile. There's one that's sending us data that's in the wrong units that we need to correct, but we see that's an issue and we're working on fixing it, and our providers. So I should note that GLOS doesn't own and operate any platforms. We support the operation of some, but we really rely on people who want to send their data to us to send it to the public to maintain their instrumentation. And as for the display on units, yes, that will be a feature coming soon. And I can't wait to show you that in the designs in a minute. So.
Great. Are you able to share your screen and jump in and show us some Seagull?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Let me pull up. There we go. And sorry, just one second. New to StreamYard, but here it goes. All right, so this is the Seagull landing page. So when you pull up seagull.glos.org, the first thing you do is see a search bar. And the search bar right now is, if you do some searches, there's not a lot there, but the infrastructure is built in. So down the line, we have more data sets and more functionality. This will be really key in helping people navigate and find what they're looking for. So search was really important for us to provide that to our users to make it easy to find and navigate to, so you can always find what you're looking for. So one of the new things that Tim mentioned was that we have a suite of new, we have a new data pipeline, and that comes from the National Data Buoy Center, which is owned by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. So there's a number of new buoys, usually around the center of the lakes. And we also added in some towers that provide information about the weather around the coast. So we're going to be adding more of these as the months go on, but we have a number around all the lakes right now that have up-to-date land-based or shore-based information. So this is an example from the Port of Milwaukee, and you can see the information here. Tim also mentioned that we have banners available. So for example, we have, if a station isn't functioning or something's wrong with it, the provider, the station, the platform owner can opt to put a banner on top of their platform page under the Dive Deeper, so you can get the most up-to-date information. So when you're looking at the platform on Seagull, you have to click on Dive Deeper, and then in orange across the top, if there's any information that's relevant, usually it's related to outages or systems being out of the water for maintenance, we can provide, that will be in the banner on the top. So this is an example from the Sheboygan spotter that was unfortunately taken out by a propeller and did a free-for-all drift across Lake Michigan. And then the other thing that we want to feature is that we heard from a number of our providers that they would like to see wind in knots rather than feet per second or meters per second. And we've updated that to be now the base unit in Seagull. So when you go into a platform and want to see the information, it will be in knots, but there is an option to update that. If you have an account, you can choose the parameters that you show. Did I miss anything, Tim?
I think you've got it all, Shelby. That's awesome. I wonder if there's any questions from people out there. We can certainly take them. Let's see. I don't see any questions in the comments, but I do know that we've got some real live humans that are waiting in the wings. So I want to introduce Scott Heinzelman from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and Captain Mike Dahl in Wisconsin. Let's see. And we have Tyler as well. Tyler, I believe you're a recreational boater. So we've got 3 questions for you. I'm just going to kick it off super quick here because we're running a little bit behind time. But, maybe I want to, whenever someone says, hey, do you want to hear the good news or the bad news? I always say I want the bad news first. So the bad news, give it to me. Give it to me, Scott. Tell me, what is it about Seagull that you like to see or that you were disappointed in? Give us some negative feedback on it.
Okay, well, first I'll just say I've been super impressed with this site in general and just kind of stumbled upon it through another website that I look at where there's kind of a conglomerate of weather things. So what I do is I'm a recreational angler, but I also am a DNR fisheries person here in Michigan. So I'm constantly talking to anglers and giving them places to look for information and things like that. So one of the things that has been kind of tough for us this summer is that the Ludington buoy has been kind of out of whack. It started out good, and that down temperature part of the system is really helpful in this area because thermocline and where you want to fish is so vital to people that are out there angling for salmon and trout. And so that information you have it for a while, and then when it goes away, it was tough. Now, charter boat captains and a lot of recreational anglers have temp probes and things like that, but not everybody has that. So this helps a lot. And then I learned a lot from these first few minutes of this discussion, and would like to see maybe more in a couple other critical areas around Lake Michigan. And I've got some interest in seeing something in some of our 10,000 acre plus inland lakes that are, mini Great Lakes, basically, with those types of fisheries. So that's kind of what I have there. Oh, and I would just say, there was a learning curve as both an angler and someone advising people on what I'm looking at when I see like wave heights and things like that. I know, like with my boat, I want to go out there with like a 0.3 to maybe a 1 average wave height. I think that, explaining what an average wave height means to people might be helpful, so they have a better understanding that doesn't mean it's not going to be 1 to 3s or 2 to 4s. It just means, this is kind of where it is. So maybe a way to explain things a little bit more for the, the kind of layman user with that sort of thing. And I better let someone else talk.
That's good feedback. Thanks very much. Mike, why don't we switch over to you? What disappoints you about Seagull, or what is it that you'd like to see?
Well, the only real complaint I had, in which you guys already know of the problem with somebody severed the cord on our sensor, would be just the fact, like Scott had, we weren't able to look ahead of time at ours to see what the temperatures were and wave heights. I use that information even a day ahead of time, so I can tell my customers whether or not they should make the trip to Sheboygan. And without it, it's technically a guessing game. I mean, yes, I can look at the webcams and see if there's waves crashing over the north or south pier, but the real-time report that you guys have at your buoy is it's number one for me. It was best thing that you guys could have did for us, at least at my personal level. And safety wise, because that's our number one job as captains. We have to make sure our guests are safe. So okay. I can look at that instantly and tell whether or not I even need to leave my house. I live 45 minutes away from Sheboygan, so I technically could save some money in gas too. But it'll be nice when it's back up and running. Right.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Tyler, I'm hoping your audio is working fine, but assuming that you can hear us and see us, what is it about Seagull that you wish it had, or that you're disappointed in, or it's not optimal for you for some reason? Might not have audio with Tyler. All right. Tyler, maybe if you're able to hear us, maybe just reset your microphone or something. In the meantime, Shelby, I think you had a couple questions for Scott and Mike and Tyler.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys have kind of touched on this a little bit, but we're wondering what you love about Seagull, or if there's anything that you want to add to your previous statements. Scott, go ahead.
Same order? Okay. You said, so what do we like about it?
Well, yeah, like what do you love about
well, to build on what Mike said, it's invaluable to the angling community. Once they discover a platform like this and they can find that information, it saves everybody time and money and effort if they have some clue of what the heck's going on out there before they, leave the driveway in the morning or run to the boat that's in the slip or whatever it is. So that that kind of information has been slowly building over my career with the DNR, and we're at a point now where it is just incredible what you can know ahead of time before you head out on the water. And again, I'd like to see it expanded. I live in Manistee, Michigan, and whatever way the wind blows very much controls what water temperatures, surface water temperatures, thermocline, all these things. It would help your local communities that are just trying to manage a beach and things like that if they People drive from Cadillac 50 miles away to go to the beach, and they get there and it's 48 degrees because we've had 2 days of east wind and a north blow. And they're absolutely clueless about that. They don't know where the fog came from. So I think it's a great platform, and expanding it could only make things better for people.
Thanks so much, Scott. Anything to add, Mike? You're on mute, Mike.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? I guess so.
Yep.
I see some of the other buoys have a lot more information. Like I looked at the Milwaukee thread, and they have quite a bit more to offer. I realize there's probably quite an update that would have to be done, but as far as direction of the current and temperatures, there seemed like there was a lot more information available to the folks down south of the lake than us. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love when this thing's running. It's made my life a lot easier. I think in the future it'll technically save people's lives, because the other day there was a small boat that went out, and NOAA had 1 to 2 foot waves predicted, and we were in 5 and 6 foot waves. Had those people had that information, I would guarantee you they wouldn't have been out there. I do believe the Coast Guard got involved because they couldn't make their way back. That's how big the waves were. I have a 36-foot boat. I actually had 3 waves come in the stern of my boat that day. So I know there's no perfect science to this, but real time is huge. So it's just a lot easier and safer for us to predict what's going on, and like I said, I hope it comes back. It's a huge part of my everyday fishing.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys. Shelby's got a couple more things to show us in Seagull, but before we switched over to that, I did want to ask you one final thing. I mean, Scott, you mentioned that you stumbled upon Seagull, which is a great story, but almost kind of a sad one. Like, what can we do to increase our reach so that we can find people like you or others in the region and help grow awareness? I mean, both of you have said multiple times, if only everybody knew about Seagull, it'd be great. And Mike, you just gave a great example of that with that small craft. So what can we do better to increase engagement with users and grow our user base? Scott, you go first.
I don't. Maybe there's folks acted in Wisconsin, but as far as I know, Michigan. I don't know who. I've told other people that I work with about this site and how to look at it so they can pass along to anglers and for their own angling and whatever. So it doesn't seem to be as well known here. Now maybe I'm just in the dark. I find a lot of this lake information in the old-fashioned way. There's a fishing website, that a guy that sells tackle or whatever, that has a page that's Great Lakes information, and he has a bunch of different weather-related links on there. And this link falls under the old Ludington buoy link that was a buoy that was active, I think, through NOAA or whatever in the last few years, and then it kind of disappeared for a season. And now this year, I clicked on it, and I've got Seagull, this new platform that I'm trying to figure out. So my thoughts on it would be outreach, and state agencies, governmental agencies would be one way, but also folks along the lakeshore in roles with the city and things like that. Some outreach with them, charter boat captains, sport fish associations. There's some websites where a lot of people traffic that may or may not know about it. I don't know. But those would be some easy ones where I could see my division certainly being interested in putting something together and putting it out there to the public in the pre-fishing season every spring or whatever. And I don't know how. I'm assuming these buoys are removed at a certain time of the year, and then we kind of overwinter and they come back out again. But And then to what Mike said, the amount of information, the Ludington buoy was special because it has that down temp to 70 foot or 80 foot, which was usually enough to capture the thermocline and at least give you a sense of what's going on. So that's a step up from anything else for sure for the angling community. So
yeah, right on. Thanks. Mike, have you got any thoughts? I mean, you've got real customers that you take out on the water. How else could we better engage or increase our engagement?
And any number of threads for Great Lakes fishing, salmon. If you can you hear me? I don't know if I was yammering on for okay. On Facebook, I'm part of actually the board of directors for the Sheboygan chapter for our club. Now, almost every port on our side of the lake has its own club or association or a thread or multiple threads for people to learn how the fish are biting. And each individual one is generally open to the public. You could probably get some attachments for those clubs and or just threads about your information and where to acquire this. Because if I remember right, this happened a year ago, and somebody told me about your sensors, and of course I'm not computer smart at all. I do best I can. The fact that we're talking here is a minor miracle. Anyway, because I just don't spend a lot of time on here. But anyway, you could invade some of those sites and get it out there that it is a tool. And for us charter captains and fishermen, from a safety standpoint, it's invaluable. And I think exposure that way, you're going to touch a lot of people. There's a lot of people that look at those
Great
sites.
Well, thank you both, and thanks, Tyler, for joining. I'm sad that we didn't get to hear from you, but maybe we just had a technical issue. I'm not sure. We're going to switch back. Shelby is going to show you, talk about some of the new data pipelines that we have that we're connecting. And also, you're going to show us, I think, what's coming next in the pipeline for Seagull. Is that right?
I am, yeah, exactly. But really quickly, I wanted to just comment what Mike said about like the ports each having their own chapters. We got a great comment in from actually one of our buoy operators / owners that QR codes posted at public boat launches that link to the closest buoy would be a great way to get people engaged. So thanks for that comment, Ron. I really appreciate that. I think that's a really great idea. So the Ludington buoy got brought up. So I'm going to go back into my screen share and show some information about that. And hopefully this is full screen now. So one nice feature is if you know exactly what you're looking for within Seagull, you can go to what's called our data console and search for the platform name. Oh, this just showed up for me. Hold on one second. Refresh. Ludington. Am I spelling that wrong? Well, this is exactly how a demo always goes, right? Thankfully, I know exactly where Ludington is. It's this big yellow dot that's been out. So we have had some technical and mechanical issues with this. And I just wanted everyone to know, I know this is a beloved buoy by many, that there's been a number of attempts at repairs, and it's just been too rough of conditions or just not the right timing to get the fixes made, unfortunately. But the Sigler, which is the maintainer of the buoy and the operator, did want to note that the charter captains have been more than helpful in helping him get out there whenever he has a chance to make it over to that side of the state to try to make the repairs possible. So big thanks to everyone for helping with that and the patience while we get that back online. I know he's as anxious as you all to get that going. And then let's not end on a bad note, though. Let's talk about the new updates that we have coming, if that's okay. Tim, do you think that the users want to see that? Should we go there?
Yeah, I think people would love to see what's coming in Seagull. Some of these designs we've been working on for several months. I mean, just to quickly update, we're a little bit over time here, but we have a rigorous design process that we go through with our design team. We put it all together, we evaluate it, we finally approve it, and then we send it over to the development team to actually build. So these are designs that are ready to go, and we're just waiting in the queue. So let's show them, Shelby, of what's coming in Seagull. I think our users are going to love it.
Yeah, I'd love to. Okay, great. Let's hop over there. So this is our not live page. This is where all of the designs live and we need to work through. So one of the things that we have on deck is the changing of the home of like the landing screen. We're going to have we're going to have different layers available that you can kind of do more customization with when it comes to what you see. I know there was a question from someone about, are we going to include wave? So this is all the model data that is forecast or hindcast. And it's right now surface water temperature, water currents, and wind speed. We get this all from NOAA. And there was a question about, are we going to include waves in the future? And if that becomes available through NOAA as an option, I think we would love to include that. And we are going to work on including a research-based shoreline flooding model. So not quite waves, but kind of helps you get an idea of what the flooding might be like along the shoreline. Oops, excuse me, a hiccup. The other thing that I mentioned was the ability to choose the units. So in the future, you'll be able to change the units on a page. So if you go to a landing page and there's other units available, you'll be able to click right on that unit type and convert it back and forth to what you want to see. So again, we're not ready with this yet, but it's something that we're working towards. And then to give you an idea of what else will be available in terms of parameters, in case you're curious, if you have an account, you'll be able to set preferences for all of the different variables that have multiple preferences. So you can see there's a number of differences as you go through the different types of data. And we're really excited to be able to highlight some of those and be able to give the users more control over what they have. And then finally, and very briefly, we're going to have in some new data types for next spring. We're going to have gliders, drifters, and high frequency radar. So we are working on those designs and working on getting that pipeline set up. But those will be just totally different types of data than what you've been used to seeing so far in Seagull.
That's great, Shelby. Thanks. It sounds like we've got some great plans to really grow the platform for our users. Well, we're just about done, and two things before we go. The first one is this video has been recorded and it will be available on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. But we're also going to be doing this type of thing again. So we would like to continue to have these user group meetings where we get real live users in the chat, in person, sending us feedback so we can better engage with you and learn what you love about Seagull, and almost equally as important is what you don't love about Seagull, so we can continue to make it better. The other thing is that we're having a special webinar just for data providers. That's coming up here in just a month or so. So if you are providing data to GLOS, and Shelby talked about this at the beginning of the video, and if you missed it, just rewind and you'll find out a little more about how you can get to deploy your own buoy. But if you do have a platform and you're a data provider, thank you for sure. But also we're going to have a special live stream or webinar just for you folks. And just to end it on a real fun note here, we have some Seagull swag. I suggested that we give away an actual Seagull, but Everyone said no, that was a terrible idea. So we're not going to give away.
Permits are too much work, Tim. We didn't have time for that.
Yeah, well, it was especially bad when I said, I think we should send David out to catch the seagull, and everyone's like, no, David would never be able to catch a seagull. It's a terrible idea. All right, but we do have some great Seagull swag. And if you're interested in getting some Seagull swag, and we've got some good ones, like I just put it actually away earlier today, but we've got Seagull Snuggies, we've got pop-up things, we've got Seagull hats. I don't know if we have pencils. We for sure have stickers. So we'd love to share some of that with you. And so for the first 3 people that send us an email at support@glos.org asking for a new Seagull feature, you're going to win some swag. Please include at least your email address, which we would have, obviously. And then the first 3 people to also post on social media about Seagull, hopefully positive, but we'll take negative, you also win swag. Just make sure that you be sure to tag swag, please. I think SWAGPLS. Maybe David, you can throw that up in the scrolling, whatever you call it, on the bottom of the live stream. Anyway, so that's six different people out there. Send us an email, post something on social media, tag GLOS, tag Seagull, tag swag, please. We'd love to hear your feedback and your comments, and then we'll happily send you some swag, and maybe someday it'll be a real seagull. All right, I think that's about it. Shelby, do you have any final comments you'd like to share with our users?
No, no final comments. Thanks everyone for calling in, but just one quick response to a question that we got in about if the UI code is open to view. It's not yet, but part of it will be eventually. So we're not there yet, but eventually we will share parts of the code to make it to be able to build on the applications. So just as an FYI.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks, Shelby, and thanks for asking that. All right, well, I think with that, then we'll close it out. We're just at about 42 minutes or so, so that's been perfect timing. Thank you all for staying, and thanks for participating. If you've got any final questions, please send us support@glos.org. If you happen to stumble upon this video and you have no idea what we're talking about, go over to seagull.glos.org and check out this amazing platform that the Great Lakes Observing System has released for free for you for data and information in the Great Lakes. All right, thank you.
Good night, everyone.